All right.
Okay.
Well, Lily, relax.
Okay. I am.
It's wonderful to have you back in Dallas.
Thank you.
It's really good to
It's
see
great
you
to be
again.
here.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've talked.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've been in Dallas.
But anyway, we're excited that you're finally bringing Search to Dallas. And we hear that we're going to see some new material that was not in the New York show.
You are. I'm a little, I say, you are definitely, but I say that with trepidation, you know, because I'm always, it's always a little nerve-wracking to put something, when you put something new in, particularly when something's been, everything's been tried and successful, and then I'm going to kind of disrupt things by introducing something else, a new element.
But it's all from the book.
Yes.
Okay. How much new material will we be seeing?
Well, I'm going to add the character of Paul because we were getting ready to film the play, and even though Paul hasn't been in the stage version, we wanted him to be in the filmed version. And plus, you know, we're working on this play all the time, and just refining it, and that's sort of, I mean, that's what we love about theater anyway. And a lot of people in my crew are have the same inclinations that I do, and we just like to we have 500 sound cues in the play, and we're always adding sound cues or looking for a better sound of dripping, like water dripping off of an awning, or because a lot of the atmosphere of the play is created by sound, and so, you know, and if you love sound or if you love effects like that, the fantasy of effects, then you're always just looking to augment it or get the essence of a sound, you know, that you don't feel is quite the way it calls to mind exactly what you want it to call.
Did you ever consider using more staging, more sets, more props?
No, for this play, no. First of all, it's too limiting. You can't move fast enough, you know. And in the play, I have to move from character to character so rapidly, and change location in literally in the flash of an eye. And even as a little girl, though, see, Bobbie, I always liked this form because I was just transported myself by the idea that if you could make the audience believe it, you could go on a trip, you know, you could just take them anywhere. You could be anybody and be any place. And so I spent a lot of years really working in this form, you know, even when I was doing working clubs or concerts or doing college dates. I always did character monologues, and I never used anything, and most of the monologues had a beginning, middle, and end, and it's just a form that I always loved, you know. I would do it I used to do it at the Fairmont. I'd make people just sit there and and be involved, you know, and hope that they'd be involved in some long, sensitive, moody piece, you know, albeit funny too, but still I wanted it to have all those different colors, you know.
How did Trudy evolve? Was there a real Trudy?
Well, not really. I mean, Trudy really evolved verbally out of Jane Wagner's mind and physically out of me, but I wanted to do actually, Trudy was in our first show, appearing nightly, in a more embryonic form. You know, she's been vastly developed in this play, and she's the spine of the play, really. And she's really the tour guide through humanity for these aliens from outer space who are here looking for signs of intelligent life. And through Trudy wears an umbrella hat, and so through that umbrella hat, she can contact all these disparate people. And her space chums, she calls them her space chums, they sort of timeshare these trances that she has. And so Trudy came about because in the middle 70s, when we did Appearing Nightly, we wanted to do a homeless person. Trudy is homeless, and of course she has all her belongings in a shopping cart. And she just started that way. You know, I was always fascinated by people in the streets, and in those days it wasn't even, people weren't as conscious of it as, of course, they are today. And I was just aware of it, you know. I was aware of people in the streets and people with all their belongings in a push cart and so on. And I don't know, it just, I kept begging Jane to write me a definitive monologue for a bag woman. And until I could get material, I used to just improvise. I would improvise like out of the National Enquirer or something, trying to create an essence of Trudy in the streets, you know, talking, and she seems to, you know, most you think she's babbling incoherently, and she's really the most intelligent person in the play, and the most philosophical, and the most insightful, and the most outrageous, and then one day Jane just hands me a monologue, which is the way she does. You know, I can't, just like I've been asking her now to write me a new play, and I would have no inkling of whether she is or not, but one day she'll just turn around and hand me 50 pages or 100 pages or something, you know.
Why did you have Paul in the original New York show?
Well, I started working on him, and I had done another man in Appearing Nightly, Rick, who was a singles bar cruiser, and I didn't, and the irony is that Rick was much more of a cliche, you know, a stereotype, and very easy to do, and people were just bowled over by him. I mean, people still ask me about Rick, because what it was is he was a very kind of macho guy, and you think, oh, this guy's really a jerk, you know, and then all of a sudden you're empathizing with him, you know, and you see his loneliness and you feel his pain, and so, and yet he was really relatively easy to do, and I didn't really want to draw from any of that to do Paul. You know, it's very, I mean, it's not, I do another, of course I do Ludd in the play too, who is Agnes Angst's grandfather. Agnes is a 15-year-old punk performance artist and who lives in Indianapolis. I'm going to digress now, and I shouldn't, but the play really takes place in, you know, on the West Coast, the East Coast, and then we wanted some place that was really totally in the middle of the country, and so we chose Indianapolis. Partly because I have, Jane is Southern too, her family's from Tennessee, my family's from Kentucky, but you know, a lot of my relatives live in Indianapolis. My generation, the ones that left, my mother and father went to Detroit, but the kids my age went to Indianapolis, a lot of them. So I digress, but Ludd and Marie, who are Agnes's grandparents, live outside Indianapolis, and Agnes lives in Indianapolis with her bioengineering father. It's very complicated and wonderful, you know. So the idea that they have this, that Ludd and Marie, this wonderful middle American, you know, Southern Middle American you know, everything couple in their 60s have this punk performance granddaughter is the kind of sublime connection that I love that Jane makes. So anyway, when I left off, I went off the point somewhere. What was
Paul.
it?
We're talking about Paul.
Okay, so Paul. Now, see, Paul is the sperm donor in the play for a turkey baster baby. Now, a lot of people think that this isn't true. You know, I mean, a lot of people, they laugh uproariously at this, but indeed, in the early 70s, there were a lot of artificially inseminated babies that were inseminated with a turkey baster. And they're called baster babies, and they walk this planet today. I mean, they have much more clinical and scientific ways of doing that now. But for some single women who in the system wouldn't participate in them being inseminated, they would get a friend to father a child, and they would very often do it with a turkey baster. And I've told this, and it's a revelation to some, and to some it's not. So
and some don't believe it.
Yeah, and some don't believe it, right. So Paul is the sperm donor to the baster baby in the play. And now...
Was he too controversial?
No,
or what?
not at all. Nothing's too controversial for me.
Okay, wait. Okay. Yeah, we'll finish Paul, and then that's...
It was, part of what it was is I could never, with Jane, in the book it's different. You know, when you're reading, you can have all kinds of detail and stuff. In the dramatic form, it was like we couldn't find out how much of Paul to tell. You know, because he's involved with Marge, and Marge dies in the play, and so we didn't know how much to tell. You know, at what point it tipped the dramatic... You know, and the baby Ivan, who is Edie and Pam's baby, Ivan is a violin virtuoso, and he has Paul's eyes, one blue and one green, and and no matter how we tried, we would lay in. It felt like we were tipping the information. We never found the perfect. Now we found by telling very little is the best way to deal with Paul. You know, just so that you make the connection that he is the father of that baby at the end of the play.
Well, we're looking forward to that, and we're looking forward to your run in Dallas. Lilly,
thanks
for your time today.
Not at all. Character, were you?
No, it's
I can get a quick 2 shots.
no, because we're going to shoot a little of the show.
Oh, okay, great, okay.
Yeah. and so we'll intercut what you're talking about on stage
Oh,
with what
good,
you're
okay.
talking about here is what we'll
All
do.
right. Also, you know, it's very, I mean, in a play that's so technical, I mean, it doesn't look technical. It looks very, have you seen the play?
No, I have not.
Anyway, you know, the lights are very, very complicated, but very pristine, and the sound is very complicated, but we want the show to look as simple as anything as it can
Yes,
possibly
it looks
be.
very minimal.
And yet,
Yeah.
and it does appear to be minimal, of course, you know, but it takes us a week to load in.
Yeah.
And get up. On most shows at tour, you know, they come in the morning, they play that night.
Yes.
And we still take, you know, 3 or 4. So little tiny. We still have some sounds that have, you know, too much, just too much noise on them that I don't like. I don't think the audience notices, but. Like right now, we're trying to get sound for Trudy because it rains a lot in the play, you know, and that's why she has an umbrella hat, and. So she pours water out of her shoes. I mean, I want her to pour water out of her shoes, and we just don't have a good sound of her pouring water out of her shoes. I mean, she wrings her hair out, and she wrings her pantyhose out and everything else, but she doesn't. I need that sound of, you know, just tipping water out onto the pavement.
That should
You're
be.
hooked up if you want to do a quick reverse. You're hot.
It's okay.
Okay.
It's okay. Let's go.
Talk
about
Read your sound.
Okay. I'll just ask the question, start to answer. Okay.
Give her plenty of light.
Okay.
Press this cord a little. Okay. I'm rolling.
Why did you not have Paul in the original show?
Well, part of it would be I when I worked on him initially, I felt like I was drawing too much from Rick, the other fellow that was in our first show, and I didn't want to, and also we couldn't decide how much material we kept.
Okay, that's great.